And this is one of the paintings that didn't make it in the book because this didn't happen. Originally, it was like that the kids all stayed in one of the cabins by themselves without. It was just the four kids, and I had the kids, and they all slept in one bed together. And it was night, and he would look out the window and see the stars and the reflection of the moon and stuff. So, yeah, that one didn't make it. I've got another one.
What a shame.
Yeah, I know. I've got another one here that drove me crazy because one thing I don't like painting big crowds of people. But
okay.
Can you see this one?
Yes, beautifully. Yes.
Okay, it said that the boys would play their violins. They learned to play the violin. Jefferson wanted them all to play the violin. It said they played the violin at his parties. So I painted a party. This was in a parlor that he would have his parties in. And here's Jefferson over here on the left with his blue coat on. And his daughter in the yellow dress and his granddaughter in the blue dress. And there's the three boys playing their violins. And then people dancing and just talking. And the floor was the hardest part to paint because it was a parquet floor that Jefferson had designed, and it had those diamonds in it. It was like a darker wood that he had inlaid in the parquet. So I think I probably spent about 4 days on that painting, 4 or 5 days doing that painting. And then it ended up that didn't happen. So it's not in the book.
Oh,
I gave that
we need to write you another Jefferson story so you can use
I know. But I ended up giving this painting to a friend of ours.
This painting does such a remarkable job of evoking a historic character. It absolutely takes you back there in that time.
Yeah, because the women wore the dresses like that, and the men dressed like that because I had to do research on what the clothing style was back then. And
there's something about the room, the way you've captured it, that absolutely looks like from the early 1800s, Jane Austen era. I mean, it just doesn't look like anything contemporary.
Yeah. I was looking at pictures of Monticello when I was doing all my research. So
was there plentiful visual?
Oh yeah.
Out there? Okay.
There's a website called Monticello.org, and that's the official website. And I don't know how many pages it is. It's got to be over 100 pages, and you can find almost anything on there. And then
Chris is commenting, Terry, that having Jefferson there as the largest character in that scene as the most important, and he's also the largest element in the picture space, it dates back to Egyptian times, as does the extra detail. Maybe that is what contributes in part to the historical verisimilitude of it. Yeah.
And then, here's another painting that didn't make it in the book. The boys taking violin lessons.
Yeah.
In the same room, but it's like a different view of that same room. And Jefferson had did all of his music. He played the violin, and there was like a piano in there. But this never happened because he didn't teach the boys to play the violin. So this painting didn't make it into the book.
He wouldn't have even come around and given them pointers or spent any time at all with them, with their instruments? No,
he didn't. He really didn't have anything to do with them at all.
Okay, no relationship. Really.
Yeah.
Wow.
And
such a sad story.
Yeah, it is. And with this one, there wasn't any light, so it was like the light coming through the window. So
yeah,
I wanted to get the glare coming through on the violin over here, like the light coming through, and
Yeah, and you kept the dark value. Well,
yeah,
all three figures really are dark values. There's nothing there's
yeah,
no illumination on them from inside.
yeah, and there's like in that James Gurney book, well, the color and light book, and then the imaginative realism book.
Guys, these are two James Gurney books that we were talking about before we went live tonight, and Terry has them in this, and I'm sure several of you are already familiar with these books by illustrator James Gurney.
Yeah, in the imaginative realism book, he talks about Howard Pyle taught all of his students to the way that these three people right here are grouped together, like the boy back of the head, back boy's head, and then Jefferson, and then just that grouping of people. Pyle taught all his students, and N.C. Wyeth was one of his students, to put groups of people together and overlap them. And he didn't have a name for it, but James Gurney calls it shape welding. And
shape welding.
Yeah, and if you just like squint, it's kind of just a big abstract shape. And
yeah,
it makes your composition, it pulls the composition of, especially if you've got a lot of people or, a group of people together, it pulls it all together. Like I did the same thing on this painting that I showed you a while ago with the Western painting with the two Indians on the horses.
Yes.
They're like overlapped,
like
one's in front and the other one's in the back, and they're overlapped, and you can't really see the second horse. So I did that I was really trying to do that on this book. And another thing I did on this book, I used 7 colors plus white to paint the whole book. That was my palette. I used a limited palette to see if I could do it, and it worked.
It sure did.
I used
were the primaries included? Were primaries included? All three of them in
ultramarine blue, and I used viridian green and alizarin crimson, burnt sienna, yellow ochre, a cadmium yellow, and a cadmium yellow light, and a cadmium red. And then that was the colors I used for the backgrounds, for the clothing. Now for the skin tones, I used a Zorn palette, which was bone black, cadmium red, yellow ochre, and white. And so from those 4 colors, I can mix like almost any flesh tone. And then what I do is I mix up a big neutral gray on my palette that's made out of ultramarine blue and a little bit of cadmium orange, and I can get a neutral gray. And I can add some white to that, and I can get all my different values of grays. Like on a gray scale, I can get all different values of gray. Then I can take colors and mix into those grays, and I can get all different, it's the same hue, but it's all different values. Like if I had I can have like a darker violet, and I can go all the way up to like a really light violet, and I can mix all the different values of violet. So it's an easy way to paint, because if you have to go back and touch up something, you know what colors you mixed.
You're adding the gray to the color, rather than adding another color to the color.
Gray. Yeah, I'm graying the colors down to get the values. So the hue stays. If it's a red, it's red all the way through, but it's just different values of red.
And grayed
and then a lot
done
of times
with gray instead of adding green.
Yeah, and a lot of times I'll mix my own ochre, because I don't like the ochre that comes out of the tube.
Hmm.
So I mix my own ochres, and that's just red and yellow and blue. And you don't use any white in it. You just red, yellow, blue,
Hmm.
and you can
In
mix ochre.
various proportions, and
Yeah,
you could get any color in the
I
spectrum,
can.
I guess, that way, couldn't you?
Yeah, I can get all different ochres. I usually mix. I don't use a burnt umber. I can mix a burnt umber
You use
myself.
black, right? You really.
I don't use black when I'm mixing those. I'll use that neutral gray. I got the big pile of neutral gray that's like dark. It's the ultramarine blue and a little bit of cadmium orange.
Is that how you get your darkest darks?
Yeah, I can get my darkest darks with that. If I need something that looks black, I can use alizarin crimson and viridian,
Hmm.
and that will give you a color that is almost black.
And yet more color, more full of
Yeah.
color and beautiful.
Uh-huh.
Well, is that why you don't use black? It's too dead, or is it too heavy-handed, or what?
Yeah. The only
Mhm.
time I use black is when I'm doing the skin tones. I use the black, cadmium red, yellow ochre, and white. And that's a Zorn palette. That was what Anders Zorn used, and it's what Rembrandt used. He used those four colors to do all of his skin tones.
Oh, that that's fascinating.
So,
What the gray does for you here is it just gives you this tremendous control
yeah,
over the
and you
values.
yeah, you can control all your values a whole lot easier. And everything by using a limited palette, I can do that whole book, and it all works in harmony. Each page.
Limited palettes rock.
Yeah,
Those constraints give such power and harmony to your
it
work.
does, and it forces you to learn how to mix colors.
Exactly. And the results are more convincing somehow,
They are, yeah,
and they have that classical fine art quality to them. So
yeah. I've got another picture here. Another thing I try to do when I'm doing a picture book, like Howard Pyle always told his students to put themselves in the picture.
Mhm.
And let me get it here. There we go. Should see it here in a
Oh
second.
yeah, he's up there. He's up at bat. It must be Babe Ruth.
No, that's I mean, Joe DiMaggio.
Oh, that's Joe DiMaggio.
Yeah.
Okay.
And Howard Pyle always told his students, put yourself in the picture. So this was a book about Joe DiMaggio's hitting streak in 1941. And they said that summer it was so hot. And if you've ever been to, back east, like in New York or any, the East Coast, it is really hot and humid in the summer. And so for the background here, I used a lot of golden tones just to make it look hot and humid. That's another thing you need to think about when you're doing like, books for like picture book illustrations. And a lot of people just kind of like do it. They get a little decorative, and you really don't. And I mean, when a reviewer even noticed that when this book came out a couple of years ago, they were talking about how hot every one of the pictures looked. That was what
You
I was
did it.
trying to
Yeah.
get. So down
Just
here
control the color temperature.
in Texas,
Be
what it
mindful.
looks like in the summertime. So you just summertime is hot.
Yeah.
And here was another book I
Fantastic.
did that it had to do with Niagara Falls. A boy that come on, that
There's a list of Terry's books on his website,
here we
and
go.
I'll give you those guys that link to Terry's website, but I bet you can find it, terrywidenerart.com, I believe.
Yeah, this happened at Niagara Falls, and a long time ago they had a contest. And this boy won the contest with his kite. And it was like he went over to the Canadian side, flew his kite over, and the first person that flew their kite over and landed on the other side of the Niagara River, that's where they were going to build a bridge. This was like a true story, and that's what his kite looked like. But I had never been to Niagara Falls, so I had to find a lot of photos, did a lot of Google search on Niagara Falls in the wintertime. And
We should put that cover up. I'm gonna put that cover up real fast. Let's see. How am I gonna do that? I'm gonna screen share real fast because that cover to me is worth sharing. Let me just give me 1 second, and
okay.
because I love because I suspect you designed the typeface on.
No, I didn't do the typeface on that one.
Oh well, it's beautiful.
They had somebody else do that.
It really works.
Yeah, they hired a guy to.
Let's see if I can get it
Yeah,
bigger.
there's the cover. I see it.
It looks like a font you would have picked for that cover.
Yeah.
Look at that beautiful color in this. Was this a limited palette as well?
No,
obviously
that was before I started doing the limited palette, but it's kind of limited because
it's pretty controlled. Yeah,
during the winter time, So
look at those rosy cheeks on him. So
and you can see his breath.
Oh, I do. Yeah.
Yeah, right there. I didn't forget to show his breath whenever you see him outside.
That's because you put yourself in the picture, like Howard Pyle recommended.
Yeah. So.
Wow. Okay, now I'm going to stop my screen sharing.
Okay.
If I can do it, watch me click myself right out of the meeting.
There you are. Okay.
Yeah. Is Leslie there? Can we show her book too?
She's here.
Or did she get involved with something else?
Oh, she's here. Here she is with her book.
Yay!
Yay!
Thanks, Leslie. All right, hold it up pretty close to the webcam. And this is Tim Tingle is a Native American descendant storyteller here in this Central Texas area, and he wrote this with, I forgot the other author's name.
No, actually, he didn't write this. Greg Rogers. It's a Choctaw trickster tale that Greg Rogers told. But he and Tim are they were partners in their storytelling.
Okay, and Rogers has passed away now.
Yes.
So okay, so it's Chuck D. Rabbit's Big Bad Bellyache.
Yes. And Chukfi, it means rabbit in Choctaw. One of the 5 civilized tribes.
One of the 5 civilized tribes, like the Cherokee.
And Chukfi means rabbit in the Choctaw language.
What did you do these paintings in?
Watercolor. Well, actually, I inked them and painted them with watercolor.
Is watercolor your preferred medium for illustration?
Yes.
This book just won, or was it last year, won the Oklahoma Book Award.
That was 2014.
2014.
The best children's book of Oklahoma.
Yeah.
Oh, it's 2015. Okay.
Hold it up, Leslie, and bring it a little closer to the camera so we can see the image just a little. There we go. Great. Look at those characters. Oh, congratulations.
Thank
now,
you.
Who did this one?
Cinco Puntos Press out of El Paso. And I had to do a lot of research as well, because I had to use some of the, these are traditional clothing that I put on these animals. A hat that the men wear on a sash, and the apron is the woman. I mean, they wear these. This is an applique that the Choctaws is traditional, the diamond pattern, which represents the rattlesnake. And then on his sash, there are stick balls and stickball sticks, and that's real traditional.
Was that an ornament, or was it a recreational sort of thing, or with a stickball?
Stickball, it's like lacrosse.
It's a game. Okay.
Yeah, and that just represented it. And then then they wanted me also to do kind of modern, so I did a hat with a Choctaw seal and a denim shirt, which was kind of cross between Greg and Tim, because Greg always wore a denim shirt and Tim always wears a hat like that. But
that whole storyteller oral tradition seems
it's fun.
So fraught with possibility for an illustrator.
Yeah, and it's a lot of animals, and I enjoy I enjoy drawing animals.
How did you create these animal characters? Just lots and lots of ideas and thumbnails that you roughed out until you were
Yes.
feeling comfortable?
Well, the story they have the animals are in the trickster tale because they were always about animals, usually about animals. So it was I knew what the characters were, and I tried to make them look like the animals, but then I gave them the people
personnel
clothing, yeah. And then I had to research the food, so I used Choctaw traditional dishes, and so I did a lot of research on it too, even though it's just kind of
How would you have research? How would one research 19th century Native American tribe? What would be the best way? How did you do it?
I had a lot of books, and I went on the internet, and I actually went to I'm Choctaw, so I went to the Choctaw Nation, and I talked to people and went to a Native American storytelling conference, and saw some guys wearing these hats, made sketches. So
yeah.
You have to research everything, even if it's just made up stuff. So, because people will find out, they'll notice if you've made a mistake. If I had made these circles instead of diamonds, I would have heard about it. So
spectacular double page spreads, and what great characters.
Thank you.
Oh my gosh. Every school librarian in the country is going to want to have this in their stacks.
It has done actually well. They're a very small publisher, but this has gone into the second printing of hardcover.
Cinco Puente, they've done a lot of award-winning children's books. They have a lot of top tier. A lot of them are Hispanic authors. It's a really serious press. That looks like a great production.
It is.
It is. It's on good paper too.
What's your website, Leslie?
It's LeslieStahlWidener.com.
Okay, it's easy. I'm gonna check and make sure if there are any questions for you real fast. We're getting spoiled by having the two of you show your work. Diane, there's a tribal resource, but also Tim Tingle and what's Rogers, Mr. Rogers' first name? Greg Rogers. They were Choctaw storytellers. Yes. Tim Tingle is the most electrifying storyteller. If you ever get to see him tell a story in person, it is absolutely a lifetime experience. It's amazing.
He's great.
Yeah, Janella was asking both of you, I think, can oils be used to paint the illustrations rather than acrylics? I guess that's really for Terry. Would you paint on canvas paper or stretched canvas?
You can sit down.
You paint on boards, don't you, Terry?
I paint on board for my books, but you can paint on canvas. And I used to do a lot of illustrations on canvas. I never used canvas paper, and I didn't use canvas boards because a lot of times when you paint on canvas, they want to wrap it on a scanner, so it has to be flexible. So I would just pin it. I'd use push pins and just pin it to a hard board, seal it with acrylic medium, and then paint. And then that way I could ship it. And when it went to the printer, they could just wrap the canvas around the scanner. Because they really want something flexible. And when I do my picture books, I use either like a Bristol paper, like a really heavy Bristol paper. I think it's like a 500. It's like a 3-ply. That they can still wrap it around.
So they're still wrapping around drums in the scanning process.
Yeah.
That's why they liked watercolor illustrations so much, is because it was flexible.
Yeah.
And but yeah, they could always peel the canvas off.
Yeah, you can do illustration with oils. I used to, when I first started out doing illustration, like back in about 81, 82, I was using oils, and I was using Liquin, Liquin, Winsor Newton Liquin, to speed up the drying. Now, I would use I never put the oil on really thick. I would just use I would thin the paint down really thin with Liquin, and sometimes with some thinner, and just paint it on there.
in almost a transparent way.
Yeah, and just build up some layers of it.
Yeah, yeah. A lot of illustrators still use oil.
Yeah, and you can put it on thick, and then you can wipe it off, and it stains the canvas. And that's how Bernie Fuchs did all of his paintings. He would put it on really thick, and then he would wipe it off, and it would stain the canvas. And I mean, if you've ever seen Bernie Fuchs' work, it's like,
yes, some of the group is familiar with his work.
Yeah, it's great. And I got to see him paint once in his studio, and it was really something.
Well, it would be really something to watch you paint in your studio. I wish we could all I wish the whole class could crowd around you while you're painting sometimes.
Sometimes
Would you thank Leslie for showing that to us?
Yeah.
She got away before I looked up and she was gone, but we didn't.
Yeah, she got out real quick.
Okay, well, they'll thank her in the chat comments. That was real sweet.
Yeah. This is from the Willie Mays book. On the end papers, they wanted me to do baseball cards. This is another thing I'll paint on is chipboard.
Okay.
And chipboard they can't wrap it on a scanner, but so they just scan it flat. They'll do like you just put it on a big scanner.
Flatbeds. Yeah. Flat.
But the chipboard, I like doing that because it's gray. It's kind of a grayish brown. It's got all that, paper in it when they make the chipboard, and it's really cheap to buy. You can buy a big, huge sheet of it, and for about $5.
A good board.
Yeah, and it's heavy. And Seymour Quast used to do a whole lot of paintings, a lot of his illustrations on chipboard, and that's why I started using some chipboard on some things, just to see what it was like. And you can kind of see the texture of the chipboard coming through on a lot of the paintings. Sometimes, I think, I did one book where I kind of let the chipboard. I just kind of glazed the color over the chipboard, so you could see the texture of the chipboard coming through the color.
I almost get a sense of that from the Willie Mays picture on the right, but with the ground underneath. It's just you're just using that as ground.
Yeah, and then
those are stunning. How many baseball cards did you have to paint?
I had to paint 4.
Oh, okay.
And I did all the lettering and everything.
Well, I'm sure you were a collector of baseball cards.
I mean, they were about the size of a baseball card.
Did you pull out your old baseball cards from?
I don't have any old baseball cards anymore. They all disappeared a long time ago.
Mine too.
But with chipboard, the one thing you do have to do before you can paint on it, you have to seal the whole thing with acrylic medium.
I see.
And because if you don't, and you start painting on it, the paint just soaks right into the chipboard, and it dries so fast. And you can't do any kind of blending or anything. And so if you seal it with acrylic medium, then you can paint, and it sits on top of that medium, and you're able to do some blending. I use the golden open acrylics. Can you see that? I'll get rid of this.
We're still looking at Willie Mays.
I'll get rid of Willie Mays here.
But those are beautiful.
Thanks.
And I love you've got a real strong value pattern in all your paintings, so that really anchors them, gives them solidity. And
that's the one thing that was the one thing that was hammered into my head when I went to the illustrator's workshop was value.
Organization. I mean, yes.
Bernie Fuchs and Mark English, they always just said,
yeah,
it's a value.
You see it in all the great paintings and illustrations. Golden is isn't that the favorite of the acrylic brands?
Yeah, it's what I like the best. I've been using like about 30 years.
They have just come out with a line of watercolors called Quor, Q-O-R,
yeah,
and everybody's raving about them and their coloration.
Yeah, and they have oil paints too. It's called Williamsburg oil paints, and I have some of those because every now and then I'll try to do an oil painting again. And but it's like I just like acrylic better. One thing is like I don't like paying $30 for a tube of paint.
Mhm.
And
Acrylics are cheaper.
yeah, and
They,
if you buy like any cadmium color in oil paints, you're going to pay at least $30 for that tube of paint.
yeah,
And I just can't, it's like that hurts me.
that's serious. That's some serious expense. What Diana brushes? What are your favorite brushes?
Oh, my favorite brushes. I use I've got a couple here. I use Winsor and Newton Monarch brushes.
Okay.
Can you see that? Yeah.
Hold it a little. Hold it. Let's see that. Okay. Yeah, it's a bristle brush.
Yeah, and I like to use filberts.
Filberts. Oh, okay.
And I like these. I like the long filberts. I don't really like the short bristle filberts. I like the long bristle filberts.
And that looks like a pretty long handle on that.
Yeah. This is a number 9. I've done some experimenting with. These are good brushes. These are made in Spain. These are Escoda.
Okay. Is that a filbert too, or is that a?
Yeah, this is a filbert too. And it's Escoda, and they're made in Barcelona. They make all sorts of brushes. They make oil brushes. They make synthetic brushes for acrylics. And these brushes, they're really good. They're better than the Winsor & Newton ones. I'm probably going to start using some more of these, but I only have one of these now. But I really like those.
Stacy says, what did you seal the chipboard with? Acrylic medium, and I think that is what you said.
Yeah, just acrylic medium. Let's see if I got a tube setting over here, or a jar. Yeah, I got Let's see. Can you see that?
Matte medium. There it is.
It's just golden acrylic matte medium.
Mm-hmm.
I just thin it with a little water, or sometimes I don't even thin it with water. I just pour it out on the chipboard and just brush it on. The good thing about if you just pour it right on the board and you just brush it out, it'll leave some line brush marks. And when you paint, the paint gets in those brush marks, and it looks like you get some kind of textures in there. So
as if you were preparing as if you were doing a scrumbling or something on a canvas. Let's see. I got to give you the time check that I told you I would, except I'm an hour late doing it. It's 9:26.
That's okay.
Stacy was asking. You can see. Is it the same as kills? I think that's a.
Yeah, kills that's a house painting thing.
A house painting thing, but it's more to kill all the fungus and mold and stuff under the.
Yeah, kills is what you paint when you're getting ready to paint a wall in a house.
Yeah,
kills.
So it's not quite acrylic media. Acrylics is for fine artists.
Yeah,
and it's
And then somebody,
medium,
let's see,
just
Diane said, "Do you thin acrylics into glazes often with the medium?" Yeah, I do glaze. I do some glazing on things, and I thin it with medium. And sometimes there's a glazing medium that Golden makes. You can either do it with acrylic medium, or you can do it with the glazing medium.
I was noticing on Golden's website the other day that they've got a watercolor, kind of a watercolor gesso that you can put on any surface and turn it into watercolor paper, or the equivalent of.
You can.
We're just gonna have to try that and see what. All right.
Let's see. Stacy wanted to know if I let the acrylic medium dry. Yeah, I let the acrylic medium dry before I start painting.
Okay. So, is there anything once an acrylic painting dries? Can you go into it and get it wet again, juice it up, and
I'll. If I'm doing a book and I'm painting on paper, on the Bristol paper,
Mm-hmm.
and I've painted and I want to go back the next day and, pick up painting in a spot where I left off,
Mm-hmm.
I have some golden retarder, and I just paint retarder. I paint like a really thin coat of retarder over where I'm going to start painting, and it just kind of like blends right in, and I can start like where I left off. And that's an oil painting technique. It's called oiling out. It's like when oil painters, if you're painting oil painting and it dries and you want to go back and work into something, they would take like the oil painting medium, and do like a really light coat of the medium over the dried oil paint.
Mm-hmm.
And it makes it wet again where you can just go right back into painting again. So that's and that's called oiling out.
Oiling out.
Yeah.
That's good to know.
And and I use it with the acrylic, so.
Nothing has to be set in concrete.
No.
Okay. Well, in the interest of your time, respecting your time, Terry, let's look at some of these.
Okay.
And do you want to can you see the thumbnails up on your screen?
Yeah.
Do you want to just tell me which ones you want me to blow up and we take a look at them? And
let's do Deb the Crow. What is it called? The Crow that she.
You've looked at these earlier today.
Yeah.
Deb Barsh's Crow. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Let's pull that.
Got it. And this was done in. Let's see. Was it
pastels?
Pastel. Yeah.
Yeah.
And the resolution was fine on this, Deb, to answer your question that you'd given us.
Okay, is she there?
Deb, are you there? Let's see. Deb, if you're there, but until she types something in, why don't you just talk at her as if she is there, and she'll watch the replay if she's not here. And if you have questions for her, maybe.
Okay.
Let us know if you're there, though, Deb, and I can tell Terry.
Let's see. Okay, here's the picture. All right, I looked at this. I couldn't figure out what was going on with that doorway, and I see that it looks like the doorway goes up and into this room where they're sitting at the table, and so I did a quick little sketch here.
Oh, okay. Let's see it.
Let's see. I think it's this one right here.
Yes.
Where I kind of like made the doorway where it's squared up, and then you can see there's a corner here coming around the corner, and then I have the mother and the daughter sitting at the table, and then since this is about the crow, she's got the head of the crow like sticking up above the top of the window. Yeah, right there in the window. And I thought, well, why don't we put the whole crow in the window? But the crow wouldn't be like really black because you're seeing it through the glass. So the color would be, it'd be kind of muted. It wouldn't be like a whole black. But I think by putting the crow in the window, it's better. But then I started playing around with a different composition that she might want to try. And it's this one right here.
Oh, uh-huh.
Let's see, get that. There we go. And instead of showing that door that is kind of it was kind of confusing to me. It's just make the table bigger, make the mother serving the cookies to the daughter, and then you've got the window back there in the background, and the crow's head is peeking through the window, but you only see his head sticking out from behind the curtains.
Yeah.
And I think something like that would work better because...
Oh, the kids would see that crow right away.
Yeah, and this whole part is like they're talking about those cookies are the way that her grandmother used to make the cookies. And so we get a nice close up of her mother, so serving the cookies to her. And I think that would work better than the way she had it. It would work either way, but I kind of like going in big on things like that.
Makes it easier to see. I also noticed you were very conscious of your values organization, even in your little thumbnail, so that we could see things very easily.
Yeah, I am.
Well, do you think the perspective is wrong on this door?
Yeah,
like she's got one wall and then she's got another wall. It's hard to understand.
Yeah, it is.
Architecturally.
Yeah, that's what got me. I was trying to figure that out, and I see the string, from the ball of yarn that the cat's playing with coming through there.
Yeah.
But it's just like the way that the door is set and then the way the wall goes off. Yeah, just the architecturally, it would be hard to build a door like that.
The curtain makes it almost look, the window curtain makes it almost look like it's trying to be a 2-page spread. I guess it is.
Yeah.
But that door is they'd have to, both figures would have to duck their heads to go through that door in that scene.
And where the curtain is, the curtain would be going up the side of the wall and then across the window, because she's got a little bit of curtain showing there by the door. So yeah, it's just that, just the way the door is built. You couldn't build a house like that.
What about the detail with the cat under the table playing with the yarn? Is that something she could develop?
I like the figures. I like how loose it is.
Mm-hmm.
And I like the colors, and I like the way it's drawn and everything. I just like the one that I showed you, where we went in close on the table, the mother and the daughter and the table. Or this one.
That was so easy to see. Made such sense on his face.
And
so
it's that same thing, but it's just that and not having the door in there. Because the door's kind of like, it's really not part of what's going on. What's going on is her having the cookies that are like her grandmother used to make. So
that deserves to be the 2-page spread. That's right. And the characters.
Yeah.
That's a good point. Great point.